You know that feeling, right? That amazing aha moment that strikes when you're in the shower or out for a walk. But what if I told you that inspiration isn't just some random lightning strike? What if it's actually a skill? Something you could learn to summon on demand? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. So, let's start with the big question. If it isn't just dumb luck, where does that spark of genius, that game-changing idea, really come from? The answer, it turns out, is probably not what you think. And this really gets to the heart of it. We're taught to think of inspiration as this random bolt from the blue. But the truth is, it's much more like tending a garden. It's something you have to deliberately cultivate. So what's the first step to becoming a good gardener for your ideas? Well, the first step isn't what you might expect. It's not about brainstorming sessions or fancy creative exercises. Nope. It's about defense. It's about building a kind of mental fortress to protect your creative energy in the first place. This is the foundation, and it's so fundamental it's easy to miss. Real sustainable creativity doesn't come from a trick or a technique. It comes from diligence, from the way you actually structure your day-to-day life. And there's a very powerful reason why this is so important. It's because our modern lives are just filled with what you could call destructive noise. I mean, think about it. The endless scrolling on social media, the constant barrage of negative news, the pings and notifications from our phones, all of it. These things aren't just harmless distractions. They are actively poisoning our ability to think clearly and creatively. And that is where your mental firewall comes in. Building diligent habits, things like focused work and productive routines, isn't just about getting more done. It's a security system for your mind. It filters out all that junk and creates a clean, clear space where great ideas can finally have a chance to show up.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. An undisciplined, lazy mind is like an open gate inviting all those destructive, creativity-killing thoughts right in. So securing your mind isn't just a good idea, it's the essential first step.
Okay, so let's say your mental firewall is up. You've created that clear, quiet space. So what's next? Well, an empty room is just an empty room. Now you have to start filling it with the right kinds of raw material. Right, so if diligence laid the foundation, what are the actual bricks and mortar you use to build a truly great idea? Because let's be honest, just working hard on the same old thing over and over isn't going to lead to a breakthrough. The key, the real secret sauce, is to start applying your effort in some pretty unexpected places. You need to start exploring and studying what are called heterogeneous fields, which is really just a fancy way of saying, go learn about stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with your main expertise. And when you do this, you create something incredibly powerful called a knowledge intersection. Think about it. Imagine a marketing expert who, for fun, gets really into studying ancient Greek philosophy. The unique connection point between those two fields in that person's mind, that is a gold mine for innovative ideas that no one else will have. See, most people just keep digging deeper and deeper into their own little silo. But your unique inspiration, the kind that changes things, is born from making connections that no one else can see, simply because you're the only one putting in the effort to collect the dots from completely different worlds. So you're building your firewall, you're gathering all this unique knowledge from different fields, but that leads to a very, very modern problem, right? How do you manage all that input without completely drowning in it? There's a perfect term for this feeling: information indigestion. You can consume all the knowledge in the world. You can read every book and watch every video, but if your mind can't actually process it, it's not just useless, it's actually counterproductive. It clogs up your thinking. So this solution is to become a master at switching between two distinct modes. First, there's information gathering mode. That's when you're actively out there, learning, reading, consuming. But, and this is just as important, you have to have an information blocking mode, where you intentionally, deliberately shut down all external input. The most creative people are absolute wizards at this. Okay, but that's a fair question, right? What do you actually do when you're in blocking mode? Do you just sit there and stare at a wall? Well, yeah, kind of. This is the step that almost everybody misses, but it's where the real magic happens. In those periods of intentional silence and solitude, all those disconnected bits of information you've gathered finally get a chance to bump into each other and connect. You're not adding new ingredients, you're just turning down the heat and letting everything you've already collected simmer into something new and delicious. And I want you to really let this sink in. This isn't a luxury. This is non-negotiable. Without scheduling real time for silence and solitude, you just can't create anything truly important. Breakthroughs don't happen in the noise. They are born in the quiet spaces you intentionally create for them.
All right, let's bring it all home. Let's pull all these threads together. Inspiration isn't this mystical thing you have to go out and find. It's not something you wait for. It's something you grow right at home through a clear, strategic process.
So here it is, the four-step process. First, you build your mental firewall with diligent daily habits to block out the noise. Second, you create knowledge intersections by exploring fields totally unrelated to your own. Third, you master your information flow, knowing when to gather and when to block. And finally, number 4, you schedule time to incubate all those ideas in silence. And when you boil it all down, this is the secret. Your creative strategy isn't some workshop you attend once a year. Your creative strategy is your daily discipline. Inspiration isn't something you find. It's a byproduct of how you live. So I'll just leave you with this one thought to chew on. We are all swimming in an ocean of noise. If you decided to build your firewall just a little bit higher today, if you carved out just a little more quiet, what incredible idea do you think is already in your head just waiting for the silence to be heard?